On today's show,
Westbrook posts the perfect triple-double. Bron calls out his Cavs defense, and it's do-or-die time for the Pistons.
we debate if Joel Embiid will ever reach his full potential.
And throw it up, we're going to count down the top 10 plays of the week.
It's Thursday, March 23rd. The Starter starts now.
Good evening, Sweet World, and welcome to The Starters. Whether you're joining us live right now on NBA TV or a little bit later on YouTube, we're very, very happy to have you. I'm J.E. Skeets, and alongside me, as always, that's Taz Mellis.
Thank you for joining us.
To his right, the international man of mystery, taking it to the max, Lee Ellis.
Lily.
Lily, and last, certainly not least, over there it is the bearded one, getting ready for those blue, Michigan blue?
Michigan Wolverines.
Hey, yo.
I know a ton about college basketball. Go blue is what I was trying to
Go
say.
blue,
There you
go Michigan Wolverines.
Yeah.
That's where I'm headed right after the show. But I'm here at the internet looking for your best tweets at hashtag the starters. And guys, last night while the Bulls were beating the Pistons, Dwayne Wade was spotted on the bench wearing an outfit better suited for Miami than Chicago. A short sleeve suit with a deep scoop neck tee and a couple of chains underneath. And since this is an interesting off-court look, it's time for everybody's favorite new game, fashion or nah.
Wow.
So guys, is Dwayne Wade's bench look fashion or nah?
That's fashion.
Yeah, he's
Yes.
made it fashion because he had to cut the sleeve off because of the injury on the other side. So he didn't want to have one sleeve and one non-sleeve, I think.
Okay.
And he's turned it into a very, very cool look.
Yeah, I mean, Trey said it. It's very Miami Vice-like.
Yeah,
I was
for
just
sure.
in Miami. I was rocking that.
Yeah.
That looked good
An
on
even
you.
deeper V I was rocking. But yeah, definitely fashion.
Fashion, yeah.
Fashion, man.
Lock it in.
Oh, lock it in. That's fashion.
Yeah.
Not a lot of ways to dress up an elbow brace. That's just our opinion. We want to hear from you, so hit up our Twitter at The Starters. We've got a poll running right now. You can let us know. Is Dwayne Wade's bench look fashion or nah? Get your votes in right now, and we'll check out the results a little bit later.
All right, great stuff. Fun show tonight. Tass is going to award the dishonor for worst of the week, and we'll run through the top 10 plays from the past 7 days. But we start with a little true or false. TK's got some questions, and we will debate here whether they're true or false. Trey.
All right, another Russell Westbrook triple-double and another something we've never seen before, this time along with his 14 assists and 11 rebounds. Westbrook went 6 of 6 from both the field and the free throw line to become the first player anyone can remember to not miss a shot while notching a triple-double. True or false, last night's triple-double was Westbrook's most impressive.
False. He didn't even play in the fourth quarter. There has to be a little bit more of a difficult game to call it his best. 35 triple-doubles this year. You know, let's get one where he had to go down to the wire. He had to shoot more than 6 times to beat a team. I mean, they really slapped around the Sixers last night.
I agree with you. If you saw Royce Young, obviously covers the Thunder, OKC beat writer, he actually tweeted last night in that second half that Westbrook was sort of pretty openly resisting taking shots because he was 6 for 6, and he was going perfect, and that game was a blowout, and he maybe was going to try and keep that. I agree with you. From the other 35, there are a couple, like one off the top of my head is, earlier in the year, it was around Christmas, the game against the Celtics.
Yeah.
He went off. That was like a 45 with the triple-double, 45 points, 11-11 type game in a very close game, in a 5-point victory against a good team in the Celtics.
And came back as well. You talk about
Yeah.
the last quarter, had 18 points in that last quarter against a very, very good defensive team. His team was down. He carried them over the line. That's the sort of triple-double you remember. The one last night, you're just going to go, nah, I don't even know who they played against that night.
Felt un-Russ-like, shooting 6 times.
Yeah, I know.
Does-
He shoots
does it-
6 times before the game's even started usually.
Yeah.
29-6 though, the Thunder are when he
Yeah.
posts a triple-double. I mean, that's the crazy part here. When he posts it, they tend to win more times than not. All right, Trey, next one.
All right, next one. The Cavs are just 7-8 since the All-Star break. And after last night's loss to the Nuggets, LeBron said, quote, "You can't preach toughness, you've got to have it." Basically calling his own team SAWFT, soft. True or false, the Cavs lack toughness.
This is false. They do have toughness. Right now, they're not playing as tough as we know they can play. But when they lock in, we saw it last year in the finals, in the playoffs especially, they know how to defend. This team is just ready for the playoffs. They need the playoffs to come. And LeBron's also trying to send a subtle message to his guys. listen, don't get too carried away. We've got to lock up that number 1 seed. I just want to make sure everyone's focused on the right page. Don't start sort of drifting off towards the playoffs just yet. We've still got a month of basketball to go. So the toughness is there. It's just not there right now.
Definitely false. They won a championship. This is virtually the same roster. You got to be tough to win a championship. Now, each year is different. Injuries and new players coming in. But repeating is hard. I mean, the last team to do it was the Miami Heat, and they were supposed to win 5, 6, 7 championships.
Right.
So it's just a difficult task. They'll turn it on.
That said, they're really bad. Not just last night against the Nuggets, who are a great team.
Yeah.
Obviously in the playoff spot in the West right now, and one of the better teams since the All-Star break. But they gave up 70 points in the paint. That can't happen. I don't care how great the Nuggets are. That's just the effort's not there on the glass and trying to keep guys out. What I thought was interesting though, LeBron says, it ain't about a group, it's about individuals. We've got to be more. When he says that, it's like, what is he saying there to me? Is he saying guys on the perimeter got to do a better job staying in front of their guy, fighting a little bit more? Is he calling out the guys in the inside, saying, you've got to send a message there on the back line? And does he need to take some of the blame as well for this horrible defense if he is the leader of this squad?
I think he's just saying try harder.
Yeah,
But he knows that they're not giving their best effort, right? He knows that.
You saw that, you mentioned the points the Nuggets scored last night. They had a lot of wide open 3-pointers. That's guys just being lazy and not getting out, not rotating around, saying that's someone else's job, not mine. I don't think it takes a whole lot to change that mentality. And when LeBron calls you out, I think guys are going to be a bit more focused. But just right now, their mind isn't quite as sharp as it needs to be.
Do they flip this proverbial switch now, though, because LeBron's calling them out, or do they still wait until the playoffs come? That's what I want to know. Do they start ramping it up right now as we get into April?
I think they're going to turn the dimmer on a little bit.
Oh, they got a
they're just
dimmer.
not going
They
to
got a
flick
nice
it.
dimmer
They're just,
installed. Okay.
just slow, nice and slow.
All right, next one, Trey.
All right, sad news in Philadelphia as the 76ers announced that Joel Embiid will have surgery on the torn meniscus in his knee and that the timetable for his return will be announced when the surgery is completed. This is now Embiid's third surgery since declaring for the draft in 2014. So true or false, Joel Embiid will never reach his true potential.
Oh, it's harsh. It's
Yeah,
harsh. You
yeah.
hope, you want to pray that it's false.
Yeah, let's false it up. I mean, you can't.
But I'm leaning towards true.
Wow.
Look, I mean, the facts are the facts. The guy had the back injury, obviously, when he was in Kansas, didn't play in the March Madness tournament there. Then he has the foot injury when he gets drafted and misses 2 years. Now he's got the knee injury. I mean, it's one thing after another after another. Again, I hope it's false. The guy's unbelievable. He's a great star. He's got that personality. But will we ever see his full potential? I don't know. I really don't. Like, let's get 50 or 60 games out of him first.
Yeah, exactly.
At this point.
I can't help but think of Brandon Roy right now, who was Rookie of the Year, who was a great star, but he dropped in the draft that season because teams were worried about his knees, and eventually they proved to be true. The same thing with Joel Embiid. He's a big guy, he's a heavy guy. He's putting a lot of weight on his body, on his legs, and they're starting to sort of let him down. So I hope he can get himself right.
And how weird was this timeline with this injury, too?
Yeah.
Like, either the way the Sixers sort of got it across to the public, were they keeping stuff from the public, or is their medical staff incompetent? Because it was like fine, then it was day to day, and then it was, we might have to get surgery, or hoping we don't. Then it was, we have to get surgery. I mean, something happened there in that communication, right?
Yeah, well, I think we have to remember a couple things. Let's be positive here for a sec. Russell Westbrook had 3 surgeries on the same knee within the same calendar year. He looks pretty good.
Yeah, but he's a robot.
Yeah,
he's
he's
a
a smaller
robot.
guy. But, we were worried about the 7-footer and Kevin Durant with the Jones fracture in his foot for a long time. I mean, we don't really know. And I think they're being a little hesitant those first couple of years. They're taking every precaution. They're just like, let's wait it out as much as possible. So, I don't know. I think we have no idea. Sitting at this table, we have no idea. So we got to wait and see.
We hope it is false, and we'll stick with false. All right, final one, Trey.
All right, following last night's loss to the also mediocre Bulls, the Pistons have now lost 5 of their last 6 games, leaving Stan Van Gundy to say the team is, quote, just bad all around, and that this is as frustrating a stretch as he's had since joining Detroit. Guys, true or false, the Pistons need to blow it up.
True!
Really?
Yes.
I don't think so.
What?
Yeah. I think last
This
year.
ain't going to work.
How do you know?
Because Stan Van Gundy knows it's not going to work. That's what's happening. He's now benching his star point guard that they give a ton of money to. He gets paid $14 million. He didn't even start last night against the Bulls. Not that it changed anything. Ish Smith has been playing better than Reggie Jackson.
He's better.
But I really will be shocked, especially with Stan Van Gundy not only as the coach, but sort of in charge of all these moves, which he took,
Yeah, he's owning it.
He's owning it.
Yeah.
He's saying, I brought these guys in, and I got to figure out how to make it work. But I'd be shocked if they don't look to move either Reggie or Drummond, one of their big pieces.
You're not going to get value for them back. And I think last year, we saw them have a great year. They fought extremely hard. This year, there's something going on in the locker room, and that's totally clear. But does Stan Van Gundy know whether that's irreparable or not? I mean, that's what it comes down to. If they're not, then you trade somebody.
Well, right.
But at
Reggie
this point,
Jackson,
you're not going to
maybe.
get that value. Yeah,
Because
maybe.
what we heard is when they had their meeting, they had their team meeting, and it was a lot of people pointing fingers at Reggie Jackson and his type of play and maybe being a little selfish.
So
That's what the rumors were, obviously.
He was part of a good team last year. And he's a young player, and can he turn around in an offseason where he's not injured like he was last year? He's definitely part of the problem,
Right.
but is it irreparable is the question.
Yeah, he came into the season injured, and the Pistons started off okay without him. We thought now when he was come back, he would sort of take that team certainly into the playoffs. But right now, they just don't look like they're playing very inspired basketball when they should be desperate for every possession to try to get back at least to where they were last season, where they gave the Cavs a good first-round matchup.
Yeah, that's the thing. I remember coming into the season, there were people saying Pistons might be in the top
Top
four
four,
in
yeah.
the East. 50 wins is in play after that great, like you said, great first round against the Cavs. They gave them a challenge at least, and it's been the exact opposite. This is a step backwards. That's the thing.
There is a divide, there's a rift going on in that locker room. If they're not playing for each other, with each other, something is going on, and Stan Van, does he have his pulse, his finger on the pulse? Who knows?
We will see. All right, lots more still to come here on the starters tonight. We've got the top 10 plays still to come, and when we come back, TASS awards the dishonor for worst of the week. Could the Pistons be in play? It was a rough week. We'll see.
Welcome back to the show. This is the point of the week where we hand out the dishonor to someone in the NBA family that has done wrong in the eyes of the starters. It's time for the worst of the week.
Ladies and gentlemen, the worst of the week.
This week's worst of the week are people who call players soft for resting. Basketball players want to play basketball. Organizations want to win championships with those players for as long as possible. That is why players rest. Kyrie Irving doesn't wake up one day and say, you know what? I'm gonna let the other guys battle tonight. I'm just gonna chill. He is instructed by people who know more about the body than he does that it's best to sit out on specifically selected nights. Only 18 players played all 82 games last year. In 1996, 44 guys played 82. 244% more 20 years ago. But things evolve. We don't use floppy disks. The abacus is endangered. We don't need 2-ply toilet paper, but I'm not using 1-ply if I don't have to. A fan not getting to see the NBA stars is an issue and needs to be examined and solved. But sitting doesn't just prevent injuries and keep players fresh the rest of the season, it helps prolong the careers of those same stars. Do I have the information to back that up? Of course not. Someone far smarter than I will do that ridiculously difficult research as the data accumulates over future years. But let's just trust the people who know more about us in this given field. Hit that lazy boy, flip on that TV, and watch these guys play into their 16th, 17th, and 18th seasons. The people who call players soft for resting, your worst of the week. And I think you have to look at it like this. If they aren't resting and playing 82 games, maybe they're doing us a disservice because they don't have as long a career because of it. And I know it's very difficult to look at it that way in the short term when you don't see a guy playing on a Saturday night. But it's a long-term thing.
But we're going to have to come to a compromise, right?
100%.
I think that's, especially these marquee games is what I'm saying. These ones that obviously the broadcasters are paying huge amounts of money for. And the compromise being if we can get rid of those games being around back-to-backs or any 4 and 5 nights and those games for the schedule are light to you, then those are the ones where you really got to have your players going.
Yeah.
And we get it. You can still rest guys because the science says that makes sense. But maybe just don't pick those dates. I think that's got to be the compromise here.
I like how you chose it for this week because we were off tomorrow, which is great. But really,
DNP rest for the starters tomorrow.
We need it. We need to stay fresh. The
thing
playoffs
is,
are
Do you know how old he is? This is like his 30th season.
coaches like Steve Kerr and Popovich have acknowledged that they don't like doing it for the fans, but they've also sort of said, we're going to keep doing it though, because it is important for us and our players to be fresh at the right time of the season. So everyone knows that it's not great for the league, but unless there's a rule preventing it, teams are still going to do it unless there is some other way to keep the players healthier and fresher without playing, as you mentioned, 4 and 5 nights or whatever, back-to-backs, a couple in a week or when they go on the road or anything like that. Yeah. So I think we will find a solution. Exactly when, Probably not for a couple of years still, because there's still so much data we need
Yeah.
to collect and there's so much scheduling and organising and arranging needs to happen. But I think we will get there.
Yeah, the hard rule to say guys must play then is such a slippery slope, right? Because a guy can be injured, and it can be looked at as, oh, he's resting. So that's a slippery slope. But yes, there's a compromise, and even those guys you said, Kerr and Popovich, they understand. Guys want to buy tickets, or kids and adults want to see these guys once a year. They see that side of things as well.
For sure.
It's definitely a compromise.
Good worst of the week, and that was the story of the week.
Yeah.
No doubt, for sure.
We talked about it every day on the show, right?
Every show and both of our podcasts. If you want to hear our entire rest discussion, hit up our feeds. We got a lot to talk about rest.
All right, well, let's take a 2-minute rest here. When we come back, we'll count down the top 10 plays from the past 7 days. So, when it comes to the starters, our top 10s are like top 14s and
Yeah.
15s. We cheat a little bit. Don't go anywhere. Back to the starters, where we are super pumped up for our top 10 plays of the week. So much so that Siraj up in the control room just did 7 push-ups.
What?
He's jacked and ready to go. Top 10 plays of the week at number 10. We got 3 sweet oops for you. LeBron gets us started
Oh, nice.
in the mile-high air of Denver. Yeah, it's very thin.
Just flying through the thin air.
We continue with the oops here. Marquise Chris, reverse oop.
Oh, he's become a regular contributor in the top 10.
You're right.
Marquise.
This is absolutely sick.
Oh,
It's
absolutely.
Oh, man.
absolutely sick.
That's a great angle.
Does it have a cold?
And then Lakers rookie David Nwaba.
Wow.
David
Where did he
Nwaba over Richard Jefferson
Man, what a pass.
Came out of nowhere.
at number 10.
At number 9, Kelly Oubre. The chase down block. Everything Kelly Oubre does is pretty smooth.
Yeah.
He's got some lift, bro.
Is that bro?
Trying to
Man,
say ooh, bro?
he was making a Lyft Uber joke.
Yeah, Trey got it.
That's why it bombed.
At number 8, Chris Paul. Oh, man, he's just going to clown Plumlee. Watch this. The fake shot. Then
He's
the
right
fake
there,
pass.
though, Bunley. You feel
That's
bad
not
for him.
terrible.
Playing good D.
Oh, I feel terrible for him.
Whoop.
At number 7, tough block. Giannis Antetokounmpo gets Scalabiciere. Real
Wow.
nice. Going, following him along and getting him.
There are so many letters involved in this block.
Yeah.
It's nuts.
He grabbed Labiciere right there.
At number 6, Damian Lillard is going to drop John Henson.
Oh.
And look, this is not one of these ones where someone trips on someone else's foot.
Yeah.
This is Henson flipping himself
He
as
like
Lillard
bounces.
He doesn't try to save it, though. He just goes down.
Whoa.
He's like, that's fine.
Goes flying.
Yeah, he does.
He's a John Jetson. At number 5, Nene gets Mason Plumlee.
Not again.
Oh, no, not again.
Hey, he's playing D again, though. Bad luck.
Yes,
you know.
yes. That's a mean
Oh,
dunk by
Nene
Nene.
with the left, yeah.
Huge. At number 4, tie game. Pistons, Nets. Give the ball to Brook and let him hit you with the fadeaway baseline jumper. Game over. Nets win. Nets win.
Tough guy walk off.
Puts it on the floor, takes a dribble, then dirks it.
Yeah, exactly. Watch the celebration here. Someone just gonna jump on his back. Whoop.
Just keeps going.
At number 3, Brandon Ingram. Over $2.
Ooh.
Yeah.
He's like behind the backboard. Says go gadget arms.
A lot of limbs on this play.
Yeah,
Sneaky athleticism, gets up and throws
Oh.
down.
like that. At number 2, we got a pair of Aaron Gordon dunks. Watch the hesitation dribble to set up this one. And he just flies. Look at this.
yeah.
Whoop, see ya.
Off the dribble from basically the dotted line.
Yeah. And he wasn't done in this game. Elfrid Payton throws it up, and he throws it down, and then he just collapses. Did he just break both his legs in this dunk? Oof. No, he's
Far fall.
He's just tired.
At number 1, Russell Westbrook. 2 plays from him. A fancy schmancy
Oh, yeah.
behind the
Oh,
back
yeah.
pass.
Yeah.
This is nice, on the move.
Yeah, it's
nice right
okay.
there.
Perfect. Perfect pass. But this is 10,000 times better.
Oh, man.
That bounce pass.
I mean,
ridiculous.
Did he mean to?
I don't think so. But who cares?
Who cares?
Who cares?
Poor Corey.
Man.
Unbelievable stuff. There it is. The top 10 plays from the starters. Agree, disagree. As always, we encourage you to jump on Twitter. Let us know. All right. Let's soon find out here whether Dwayne Wade's bench look was fashion or nah.
Get your votes in.
Back with the starters, we threw a poll up on our Twitter account asking you, was Wade's bench look fashion or nah? The people have spoken.
People have spoken. 56% of people who voted say, nah.
Wow,
Crazy.
Lee, you look upset by
Oh
this.
man, even I thought that was a cool look from Dwayne. But he's a pretty cool dresser anyway. Maybe people have just got his standards so high they thought,
yeah.
maybe.
That
I
could
don't
be
know.
it.
That's possible. Sorry,
Thanks for
Dwayne.
your votes.
Yeah.
Thanks for voting, guys. Okay, let's get to last night's Pick'em results. It was a good night for Trey. He backed his Bulls. They came through. We got a three-way tie at the top. But the top does not matter. It's whoever's in last place, and Lee is 3 games back from all 3 of us now, picking the Pistons to win. So it looks like Lee maybe could be doing the punishment at the end of March, and well, nothing's going to change after tonight's Pick'em play. It's Suns and Nets. We all think the Suns are sort of tanking. The Nets, they got nothing to tank for, so we're all taking Brooklyn. Good luck to them. All right, Lily, where are we going for VSP?
We're going back out to Chicago for a nice little merry-go-round here from the Bulls. Jimmy Butler gets it going over there to Paul Azipza. Rondo, a couple of bounces, nice little bounce pass to Nikola for
Swish ball.
and a little smack talk as well over
Yeah.
there to the Pistons bench.
In your eye, Jamal McGlory.
Yeah, look at him. He turns around and says, "That's what I call a very solid play, guys."
That's what someone's got to start doing. Just
hit him with
turns
the two
around, hit him
thumbs
with the
up.
2 thumbs. Suck on those. All right, we had a blast recording the Drop podcast this morning. Got into a whole lot of the big storylines from the week. And, well, Lee told us about an app that changed his life. Lee, what app do you use that makes your life easier?
Shazam. Because in the old
You're
days,
still using Shazam? That's actually...
in the old days, if you heard a song and you're like, "Oh, what is
Yeah,
this
no,
song?"
no.
Now it's like, bang, you just put it on.
And so
Got it.
I only laugh
In the
because...
old days, people use Shazam.
Lee, we got one fan sign.
Josiah and Micah out in Denver last night for the big Cavs and Nuggets game. They were hoping for a wedgie. Fortunately, couldn't pull one
Hey,
off.
look, we're all hoping for a wedgie right now.
Thanks for your support, guys.
We got no show tomorrow, so we better get some wedgies both tonight, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. When we come back, that board better say like 43 or 44.
We have slowed down.
Yeah, it's not good. We'll get there.
All right, thanks for joining us, folks. And remember, the starters want to thank Shaquille O'Neal for giving us a day off tomorrow. Statue unveiling live on NBA TV instead of the starters.
Congrats, big fella. Race the night.